So to solve this triangle, it is a right triangle, first of all. You need to write an equation for sine and cosine to solve for each x and y. So since 32 degrees is over here, x is the opposite, so we will do sine 32 degrees equals opposite over hypotenuse 54. And then similarly, we'll do cosine 32 degrees equals adjacent, which is y, over 54. So in your calculator, you can do sine 32 degrees multiplied by 54. My calculator is in radians right now, so I'm just going to select degrees from option 32 degrees. And then we are multiplying that by 54. So 28.616. And then similar, we'll do the same thing, but with cosine. So it's cosine of 32 degrees times 54. So again, select degrees times 54. Times 54. It's 45.795. Determine which of these are even, odd, or neither. The easiest is just to remember the parent functions. Since sine crosses through 0, it does have rotational symmetry, so that is odd. Cosine passes through 1, it has symmetry if you fold it over the y-axis, so that's even. Cosecant is just the reciprocal of sine, it is also odd. Secant is the reciprocal of cosine, so that is also even. Tangent is odd. Therefore, cotangent is also odd. E to the x has no symmetry, it just looks like that, so it's neither. 2x to the third is odd. They're all odd exponents. And then 4x squared plus 3, that is even, because they're both even exponents. To convert 2 degrees, you multiply by 180. And divide by pi. So pi's cancel. 2 times 180 is 360 over 7. Which is 51.428 or 429 degrees. Converting to degrees, again, multiplied by 180, divide by pi. Pi's cancel. 3 goes into 180 60 times, so we can reduce that. Negative 5 times 60 is negative 300 degrees. Converting to radians, you just do the opposite. You multiply by pi and divide by 180. The zeros will cancel. 24 over 18 reduces, divide by 6, you get 4 over 3, and then there's pi, so it's 4 pi over 3 radians. Find the point on the unit circle that corresponds to 19 pi over 3. So if you think about the unit circle, this is 3/3, 6/3, 9, 12, 15, that's 18 pi over 3. And we need to go 1/3 more to get to 19 pi over 3. So 1/3 puts us over here. And that was a pi over 3 angle. And then from the unit circle, you know that pi over 3, that should be a little bit higher up, more about here. But pi over 3 is the point 1/2 comma square root of 3 over 2. Cosecant of pi, that is the reciprocal of sine of pi. So sine of pi is 0. So the reciprocal of that would be undefined. Cosine is positive and sine is positive. You can recall the acronym all students take calculus. They're all positive in quadrant 1. Only sine is positive in quadrant 2. Tangent is positive quadrant 3. Cosine is positive quadrant 4. So sine and cosine are both positive. That's where they are all positive. So that is quadrant 1. Sine of theta is 3 over 7. And we know that the angle is between pi over 2 and 3 pi over 2. Between pi over 2 and 3 pi over 2, that puts us in either the left or the either of the left quadrants, 2 or 3. Since sine is positive, that actually tells us that we have to be in quadrant 2. So we can draw our triangle as if it were in quadrant 2. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse, so the hypotenuse is 7. You can find the third side, a squared plus b squared equals c squared, 7 squared. So that's 49 minus 9. So this other side is the square root of 40, which is 2 square root 10. So tangent, this was our angle, opposite over hypotenuse for sine. Tangent is opposite over adjacent. Opposite is 3. The adjacent side must be, or is, from Pythagorean theorem, 2 square root 10. To find the phase shift, you have to factor out the number in front of x. So to factor out the pi over 2. So we actually have 1 over pi, and we are dividing by pi over 2 to factor that out, which is the same as multiplying by the reciprocal. So our phase shift, it's 2 over pi squared. It's a strange number, but that is our phase shift. And it does shift, since it's positive, it's shifting to the left. So it's a left shift of 2 over pi squared units. The amplitude comes from the number in front of either sine or cosine, so that's 3. The negative just makes it reflect. It's not really part of the amplitude. It would just reflect over the x-axis. The period is affected by this number in front of x. That number is b, and the formula is period, which is normally 2 pi, divided by b. So period equals 2 pi over b. So we'll take 2 pi divided by pi over 2. You can change that into multiplication, make that be 2 pi times 2 over pi. Pi is canceled. 2 times 2 is 4. So the period is 4. Determine the midline. That comes completely from the vertical shift, which is 5. Y equals 5.